Welcome to the Derek Loudermilk Show. At the edge of possibility, we fuse science, spirit, and adventure, alongside healers, scientists, pioneers, and mystics to turn potential into practice, create real results. Subscribe and join me on the adventure. Alex, Stefan, welcome to the show.
Nice, thank you, Derek. That was perfect pronunciation. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we'll start with telekinesis, but then we'll move into other topics because that's where I first became aware of you was sticking cards to the wall. And what's up with that? Tell me a little bit about why you're all over the social media sticking cards to the wall.
I'm guessing the video you saw was probably the tutorial one. I'm sticking them to a wardrobe, I think it was.
Yep, and they fall down, and you're like, but that's okay. But here's something else to try. Yeah.
That was a good one. That was a good video. It got out quite a bit. A lot of people saw that. So I think that is a really good entry for anybody into the psychic skills or just the, let's say, the paranormal or the parapsychology domain, because it's a phenomena that happens really, really easily, especially once you've seen it. Once you've seen somebody do it, there's something that happens that the brain is more easily able to access that ability or that skill, whatever it is. I'm happy to go into that stuff because I don't think it's quite so cut and dry, but that's an easy one to access. And I posted that because people started doing it. If you check out that video in the comments, there's tons of people that I said, oh my god, I did it on my first try, or did it on my third try. Or I had one lady who reached out, she's like, I couldn't do it, what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, okay, well, how many times did you try? And she said, well, I kind of went through a deck of cards. It was like a few minutes, and I'm like, really? Like, you have, we're the intention is to, I guess, break the matrix or get out of the matrix, what we think as being physical reality and the confines and the restrictions that exist. And then we're only going to give it like 52 chances because it's 52 cards in the deck. Like, when I had to do this, I must have done 400 or something. So I told her my story. Like, I did it at least 400 times before it finally just stuck a little bit. And then it started getting easier and easier and easier. And I'm like, just, get back to it. It's okay. Keep going. And she did. And it worked for
her. Oh, good. Wow. Yeah. So my report is that I've tried it twice. Gone through a deck twice. And I feel that it should be sticking. Like, it feels like it wants to stick. Mm-hmm. And it seems like I perceive reality that it's sticking, but it's still falling. So I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. But my daughter, who's 7, she tried it the first time and it stuck for like 7 seconds. And then it started falling regularly. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So yeah, I'm gonna keep trying. I did some right before this call just to see if I could get it to work. Because I could imagine, having a bunch of stuff stuck to the wall and having it be totally normal. Yeah, it's so fascinating. What does it feel like for you when you get something to stick?
There's something that almost like locks in. I have a kinesthetic feeling that almost locks in when something is going to be sticking. But my advice here, so because I train people to do these kinds of things. So I don't know how it works, but I have lots of observations of how this thing works. So I can't explain to you how. I have theories about it. But what's important here is, and the reason I'm saying that is, don't try to use my method or my strategy necessarily. Don't necessarily look for something that locks in. You'll develop your own sense of how this works. This kind of stuff. So previously on my trainings, when I was doing just telekinesis trainings in Australia, I would start the training off saying, although I called this a training, this really is more of an exploration. It's more of an exploration of you. It's an exploration of who you are, what you do, what you are about. Because I want to get it across right from the beginning that I don't hold the answers to how this happens. You have those answers for how this happens for you. So anybody doing any of these kinds of skills, it's important to pay attention to what's happening with yourself and be open to how it happens for you. And yes, absolutely, listen to how other people do things, what their strategies are, what their experiences are, because that kind of stuff helps you pick that up. I don't know if I'm believing more and more that there's a field, that there's energy. I mean, I do believe it. I can't prove it though. And what seems to happen, what I've observed to happen, is the more people lock in with their consciousness, the more they put their awareness on what they're looking to do, the more they're able to pick that up somehow. It's almost, I imagine, I suppose it's something like there's a transference of energy, or there's a transference of information just by placing your awareness on somebody that's doing it. So somebody that's watching that video, when they see me do it later on at the end of the video, or I have other videos as well, just by placing your awareness on me doing it, I suspect there might be some sort of a transference of information. And that seems to make sense, and a lot of people talk about that sort of stuff, but I'm always careful to not to mention when it's a belief of mine and it's not something that's factual or proven.
It was reminding me of mirror neurons. Like when I'm thinking of body language training, like when you are sort of pacing somebody else, and then they can sort of like fall in. You can tell when they're sort of mirroring. Like you take a body position, and then a few seconds later they take the same body position, and you know that they're like unconsciously receiving that. Could be similar.
Yeah, 100%. So it is the same thing, and it's not just about that 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 body. Let's say that synchronization that happens between two people. That has a lot to do with getting into rapport with someone, and that's a very unconscious thing. So you start talking in a similar way, you start talking with similar cadence, start having similar postures, and that's when two people get in a very high level of synchronization of resonance with each other. And there's also mirror neurons firing off there as well. But like a very simple thing is like mirror neurons firing off when we're young, when we're babies, when we're kids, when we're toddlers, and we're learning a skill. So you can watch people playing a sport, and you get better at playing that sport by watching them play that sport, because your body, we have this innate skill called modeling. And I use a lot of this in my trainings as well. I get people into this modeling state to open up their periphery, open up their body. You don't want to be in a state of inner dialogue. You don't want to be in a state of tension. And when you have that opened up and you're watching other people do phenomenal feats, your body, your mind is picking on that as well. And this is completely natural. So we have this ability since we're kids. That's how kids learn languages really easily. That's how kids learn to do everything. And I use this example in my training when I'm trying to explain this, because almost most everyone has had this kind of experience, and I invite you even to reflect, and anybody listen to reflect. Sometimes we've seen an action, a physical action, happen. And in my case, I saw this video of this kid that must have been like 10, maybe 11, 12. And he's holding a baseball bat, and somebody pitches a ball. And this kid does the smoothest, most beautiful swing and hits the ball and like knocks it out of the park. And then he even has like a little flashy thing at the end, like, he's like looking at it and like a sniper or something, and he throws the bat. It was so fluid and beautiful, the whole piece. And because I was in a state of awe when I saw that, because it was so fluid and beautiful, when I rewatched it, I was completely open. And I could feel my body almost doing that action. There was a very subtle feeling of me doing the action. And again, I invite everybody to reflect on if you must have had this sort of experience, and it's just about remembering it. And years later, I was at a company party. We were doing like one of those day events. There's barbecue. There's also sports and stuff. And this was in the UK while I was in London, and we were playing something called what is it called?
Cricket?
Not cricket. No, 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 no. It's kind of like baseball, but it's with a slightly bigger ball, and it's I can't remember.
Softball or
It's kind of like
stickball?
softball, and anyway, it doesn't matter. The name it has to do something with running around the bases. Anyway, point is, I'm
Okay.
up to bat, and I remember that, and I'm like, let me see if I can lock into that. And I don't play baseball, and I lock into that. I feel that they pitch the ball, and I hit it, and I hit it like so out of the park, like it's completely gone. Everybody gets rounders. That's what it's called, rounders, because you're going around,
Ah, rounders. Okay.
and we get a bunch of points. And but I don't play baseball, you know? And the movement that I had was really, really smooth and was really similar to the one that I saw in that video many years ago. So this principle of modeling this innate skill that we have is something that I utilize a lot in trainings, and that I encourage everybody to utilize for themselves when they're watching videos and of people doing things. They want to pick it up and acquire that skill.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing benefit. You mentioned being in a state of awe. Is that where you guide people, like in your trainings, into that type of state?
So I do a lot of things because my background is in hypnosis, and also NLP, and at the basis of NLP, neuro linguistic programming, is modeling. So they NLP was started by three individuals that were modeling some of the best therapists, and were trying to get similar results as these incredible therapists, these change workers, Fritz Perl, um, Virginia Milton Erickson, and they started applying this modeling technique, or they kind of discovered this modeling technique by modeling these therapists and getting the same results that nobody else could get, even after being mentored by these therapists, and trying to learn it consciously, because that's the key.
Mhm.
That's the key difference. You can consciously try to pick up a skill, and you can see what you can do with that, or you can unconsciously pick it up through modeling and actually learn it and embody that. So there's a very big difference between knowing something consciously and being able to do something consciously, and knowing it unconsciously and actually doing it fully unconsciously. So in the trainings, I use my my skills in hypnosis, in NLP, to take people through different kinds of states. So there's more relaxed states, more trance states. I utilize those a lot to open up their beliefs, because really what we have is most of our attendees are, you know, 30 and upwards. So there's at least 2-3 decades of conditioning of how this
Yep.
physical reality, quote unquote physical reality, is supposed to work. So much of my work is around telling stories. I'm telling metaphors, things that happen to me personally, but there's an underlying, there's other things that I'm doing there. I'm providing people with these moments of insight, for not for their conscious minds, but for their unconscious minds, to start to change and reformulate their core beliefs and their foundational beliefs that they have about this world. Because I don't believe these are skills, although they're called skills. I believe these are actually inherently in us, innately in us. We have all of these things, and it's just about being able to believe that you can do it, and then just doing it.
Do you have a recorded audio program for people that could like just take and listen to you do the same sort of modeling or getting people in the right state um, for people to do at home?
That's a great idea. I do not. That's a great idea. I have been thinking of doing like an online thing, and providing people with some hypnosis sessions that they can just listen to.
Because it sounds like really what you do is you get them into the right state where they can experiment with these things and find their own way of doing. So we've talked about telekinesis. Um, there's also telepathy. What other skills or activities does this encompass for you?
Yeah, so there's quite a few, and it depends on how you like dice it up. Um, my usual frame, and I just want everybody to, um, I want people to be aware that this is a frame that I have. So I'm not sure if this is correct or not. This is just how I organize things, and I find it to be useful. So this is what I'll offer for people. Is I see skills to be divided up into either influencing, what we call reality, or intuiting about reality.
Hmm.
And influencing is any sort of skill or anything that you're doing to change matter or to change events or probabilities. Intuiting is everything to do with receiving information from reality, wherever it is. I was a
So it's like a masculine outward facing and a feminine sort of inner receptive type of.
yeah, that would be a pretty that would seem to be an intuitive kind of um, organization. Although I don't want to, I'd be careful about saying that because there might be some preconceptions that might come with that, and I don't want to limit anybody's experience.
Mhm.
So I
Sure.
don't believe any frame is no frame is true is 100% true, but some are more useful than others. And for example, if we're talking about influencing being masculine and intuiting being feminine, and which is a very that feels right. If we think that way, then we might think, okay, if I need to influence something, then I need to have force or effort, because that's another commonly associated trait with the masculine, whereas with the feminine, it's about receiving and not doing something. So on that point, when we are doing things in a training, I there's nobody forcing anything or efforting anything. I don't teach
Hmm.
that way. I know I have a lot of people that come to me with an energy work background or with like a chi background. Um, they've learned to use their dantians to force energy in the lower dantian or to move energy, and oftentimes it can be strenuous. And I do see this in the first few days where somebody might be straining to move something, or they might be creating a lot of effort. Personally, I don't find that that works any better. Oftentimes, I find that to work less less efficiently, less effectively.
Hmm.
Although I do know that there are people that have a lot of success with that as well. So I just want to be careful about what sort of associations some models might have or some frameworks might have. Um, and with regard with your question, so the kind of psychic ability, so you have the influencing, the intuitive, the intuiting. Within influencing, you have the bigger thing, which is psychokinesis, and that's manipulation of matter, any sort of manipulation. Within that, there's telekinesis, which is moving matter at a distance. Um,
Okay.
and that's like what you would have seen maybe a lot on like on videos, like moving a side wheel or moving a can or rolling a ball or something like that. The the bigger one, the bigger umbrella is we've done stuff like magnetizing metal, magnetizing things that are not magnetizable as well, like different things,
Hmm.
creating static electricity to use that to move things. We've done stuff like the sticking to walls. That's really, we have a lot of fun with that. That one's really quick to pick
Hmm.
up as well. Really, really quick to pick up. And I really encourage you. You had a great idea to have. You said your daughter,
Yeah.
and you said she's 8,
She's 7,
7.
and she has like we've done the blindfold reading with her, and she picked it up right away. So she's a quick study.
That's amazing. Yeah, I encourage anybody that has access to children to to show them this, to play around with this, and then you'll learn it as well more quickly.
Yeah.
Um, Then in the last one, we've also had people pushing needles through different kinds of objects, with the biggest one being a table, a very thick table, so pushing a needle through that. Um, we've had with playing around with like organic, like putting back basically fruits together so that they're healed basically.
Like you slice them in half and then reconstitute them.
Exactly. So if you imagine we
Wow.
had um we had like a cucumber, some had a cucumber, some had a zucchini. We sliced it in half but at an angle so that when we put it back it was like that a little bit.
Oh,
And then we set
yeah.
the intention, had everybody in a bit of a group, set the intention, everybody was going to heal it as much as they could. Everybody was healing it, and then at the end we had like a competition for everybody to see how much it could hold. And then we had a plastic bag on top, and we started pouring things in the cucumber that the cucumber was holding, or the zucchini was holding.
Wow.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah,
That's I mean, I never would have thought of some of these things, like pushing a needle through a table or rehealing a. Like, where do you come up with these ideas?
a lot of these are just they happen kind of on the spot a bit intuitively. So we have an idea. I want to do something, and then things will just kind of manifest by accident. So with the needle idea, the plan was actually to push it through glass, and
Okay.
we had people pushing it through paper cups first and plastic cups and doing some other things, getting used to it. And nobody could quite do the glass yet. And then somebody was like, "Let me see if I can do it through the table." And then somebody else saw that they were trying to do it, and then they were trying, and finally somebody got it straight through the table, and then everybody was getting it through the table.
Wow.
Um, we had um, we we also had, so this was the really big one. Um, we had, and this didn't happen just this training. In the first training, we had this happening as well, but this second one, we had a lot of people teleporting pennies and other objects.
Mm.
And what was new in this training was that people ended up accidentally duplicating objects.
Oh, fun. We just had a duplication effect last month. We went into the closet to grab my daughter's jacket, and there was two of them.
No way.
It was like, yeah, like two, and it was like the one, like we buy all the clothes in one order from Old Navy or something. This was like the one jacket where her grandmother got it from like a fancy store, and so we've never seen another one of these, and then now there's two of them, and it's like,
Wow.
what are the chances,
Wow,
right?
that's you should be
So we filled the closet with gold, and then we opened it up to see if it.
Wow. That's cool. That's very cool. These things start to kind of just happen more often once you're in the space.
Yeah, and that was at a time when I was doing a lot of research around reality shifts and the Mandela Effect and things like that. So it was perfectly in line with what I was thinking about.
Interesting. I've just been kind of looking a little bit more into the Mandela Effect. Um, did you hear about how they, a lot of, the reason a lot of these Abrahamic religions have people that are, their specific and their only job is to memorize the book word for word, and that the reason they do that, or there was a conversation, an interview that they had with one, I think it was, I think it might have been Islamic. He said because sometimes the book changes, and the only way to know if what is the real one is based on the memory, because the memory can't change. They can change the past, but they can't change the memory of any conscious being.
Whoa, that is, I haven't heard that, but that is,
Yeah,
wow. Yes, of course that could happen,
yeah,
and it does. There's people who have tracked changes in the Bible and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Oh, very interesting.
What's the interesting stuff that you came up with when researching that?
I mean, it's so fun because it's in pop culture, and it's like something that everyone has some manner of relation. I mean, I always learn more about the very original Mandela Effect, or like the one that got its name. It was reporters from countries outside of South Africa. They were sent to cover his death. They were there on the ground reporting on Mandela dying in prison, and then they were sent back to cover his inauguration as president. And they were like, "How is this possible? We were reporters covering it," and so that really blew their minds. And then they like a whole group of these reporters sort of coined the term. But of course, it's been happening the whole time. But enough, people brought awareness to it. There's also like quite a lot of instances of people being alive again. So not just Nelson Mandela, but like, like someone will be like, I remember when you died, you were really sick and you died a few years ago. And I'm like, so happy to find that you're alive again. And there's tons and tons of reports of
Wow.
these things happening.
What do you chalk that up to be?
Oh gosh. It's something I'm pondering because there's a similar experience of when people are about to essentially perish in a car accident, and it's the moment of impact, and they close their eyes and they're like, this is it. And then they open their eyes and they're like 50 feet away.
I've heard of these, yeah.
Like teleported to safety. And I guess my prevailing thought is that they actually did die in that, or that timeline ended, that collapses, and they're like shifted into the most proximal timeline. Their main awareness is just like bounced to the next most relevant timeline.
So I have a little bit of insight on this. Lidu, who's Dolly's daughter, who I mentioned earlier,
Yep.
she's telepathic. She's a non-speaker, an autistic non-speaker, and she's really in tune and can pick up a lot of stuff that has happened in the past, a lot of stuff that's currently happening. They're doing a lot of research on her. She's working with a lot of researchers to validate the telepathy, and she has been validating it all. You can find her on telepathy tapes. They're making a documentary. She's on Superhumans 2. We were at the filming together. So
Is that Caroline Corey's?
yeah,
project?
Caroline Corey's project. Yeah,
Okay.
they're doing a few other things as well. I can attest. She's an absolutely incredible girl, incredible human being, incredible beyond human being. I know that she said that she's able to change the past, and that there's beings that are able to change the past, but the thing that cannot be changed is the memory, the consciousness. So reality, the past could be changed, but your memory or your consciousness cannot be changed, which I find interesting.
There's physics experiments that have proven retrocausality,
Yes.
like the delayed choice observer effect. You can, backwards influence through time whether a particle becomes a particle or stays as a wave. When before they thought it was just forward. So that sort of hints to me like if we're in the present, if everything is the ever present now, and it's just like our memories are just like a series of events, but it's not an actual linear time stream, then that would make sense that you can focus backwards and forwards. And I've heard lots of stories of people changing the physical past, like the evidence from the past. Like a photo album is different once they've done, inner work and things like that.
Cool.
What does Lidu say about how to change the past?
We didn't ask her how to change the past. That's a good question, though. I like that question. We didn't ask her. So she uses a spelling board, like if you have something, she'll point to the letters to spell something out, and that's how she communicates. And she only has about like a 30 or 45 minutes capacity to be spelling before it's quite physically draining for her. So
Sure.
it's not as easy as like us chatting and like, hey, so how do you do that? It takes a little bit more, but that's a really good question. And we do like on our trainings. She comes to our trainings, and kind of almost every day we do about 30 minutes or 45 minutes of like a Q&A for people.
Oh
Yeah,
wow. Wow, what an amazing bonus for people.
huge. She adds so much because seeing her do these things is awe inspiring, and it really changes. It shifts your own beliefs for what's possible. It's like you're seeing a miracle happen in front of you, and more than that is um, she's also actively opening everybody up on the trainings. So that's why
Hmm.
she really pushed us to do these trainings, Dali and I, and to include telepathy in the trainings. And her mission, our mission, is to do these to be able to open people up to what's possible, and ascend or expand, elevate their consciousness. Or maybe elevate isn't the right word because that suggests elevation is necessarily better. And I'm starting to really feel like that's not you know doing away with all forms of duality necessarily, but to open people up more.
Yeah, I want to ask you more about that in a second, but I was actually just talking to I have another friend, Dita Young, whose her son is a nonverbal autist as well. They've been on the telepathy tape, so you may be familiar with them. And I was asking her like what she sees as like the ways that these nonverbal um, people will be contributing, um, because I feel like in the past we were like, oh, how are we going to fit them in with our society at large? And clearly there's like amazing insight potential that they can tap into. What other ways do you see um, people that are, either nonverbal autists or on the spectrum contributing to our collective and ways that we might not have, sort of non-obvious ways?
Yeah, so she's doing, and they are doing, uh, a lot of work behind the scenes to make things happen. They're constantly working away. If you've heard of the Hill, which is this kind of location in, I don't know, in maybe astral plane, etheric plane, on another plane, on a different kind of dimension, where they get together and they're teaching, they're sharing, they're bringing a lot of us up there already. So this has been happening in the last few weeks actually, where there's been an awakening happening, where they've had been bringing people up there and helping them.
I thought that it was kind of like if you're a normal person, don't try to go there.
Yeah, so there's the hill is heavily guarded by different beings and entities, and if you have the right intentions or if you're supposed to be there, then you'll be able to be there. But you don't need to intentionally do anything. If when it's meant to happen, it'll happen for everyone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've been working with teachers, they've been working with guides to set things up to make things happen, to putting all the right pieces together for things to happen. So the training that Dali and I have done was, I think, divinely guided by them and by other beings. Um, the last training as well, other trainings. I think everything that is happening in exactly the right way. Like the last training that we did in Sedona was we were witnessing miracles almost every day happening. It was incredible, and the container that it created and for everyone, and how much it's transformed everybody's life, and we're still continuing with everyone. So that can't just happen because of myself and Dahlia. It's There's a lot more going on.
Can you say any more about what they're doing on the hill, or like what their actions look like to support your training, or like, yeah, how that might be working?
So with the training, I think a big part of it is making sure that the right people find out. The right people, as in the people that can take this further, because it's about, we're creating, in a sense, we're creating a movement here. Everybody that's part of this is, um, it's a movement. We're shifting consciousness. So it's important that people that are, um, that want to be part of this, that are willing to put in the effort, the time as well to do this, those are people that are coming up. And I think part of it was to get the right people in this first room, or in the second room, or in the third room, the fourth room, in with divine timing. Um, I believe that's part of it. Another part is like putting all the pieces together, finding the right people, the right places, the right place for it. Because this last place was incredible. It was amazing. It was a beautiful container. Um,
Hmm.
but other than that, I think there's a lot happening in terms of them trying to raise the consciousness of everyone, and I hear a lot about that. In the end, it's there's only so much that they can do as well, um, and the rest of it is up to us. So, me being in a state of love, of care, of kindness for those around me, that's the best that I can do, and try to help and inspire other people or motivate other people. Not being, not getting strained or moved necessarily by just the day to day, or things that are not, that are more low vibration, because that takes up time,
Hmm.
and that isn't allowing me to, or wouldn't allow us to be the best that we can to help move other people as well in this direction.
Do you have a particular practice that you are doing right now to get into the optimal state?
I don't know what the optimal state is. Um, I know that I am doing a lot of stuff over there as well, but that's with my unconscious, or my dream body, or whatever that is. I'm not aware. I'm not consciously doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the main things that I do is I'm try to be as grateful as I can for what's happening, and I try to be in a state of trust that everything is happening the way it's supposed to be. So in fact, I don't anymore, but for about 2 months or so, I had an alarm every 2 hours where I would list the last 3 or 4 things that I was grateful for, to bring myself to that place, and then also reaffirm that I trust and I believe that everything is happening exactly as it should be for the greatest good. So,
And that was pretty good training for you. You found?
yeah, yeah, it helped me really rewire and change the way I see things.
Yeah, you're reminding me of just earlier today. I texted my wife how grateful I was for she's been running the kids to school and like just taking care of a lot of stuff. And I texted her and she's like, I was just about to text you the same thing. And as I read the message, and then I was walking by this local restaurant, and it was the song Paradise was
Hmm.
playing. And I was like, oh, how perfect. Like here we are, like in a, state of gratitude, and it feels like paradise. And I love those little synchronicities. And it certainly does feel like there is a whole team on the other side, like making sure that that song is playing at the right moment, or that if you're supposed to meet somebody, then they'll find out about it through some random means. And one thing that makes me try to say yes to things that are like I wouldn't necessarily normally do, because I'm like, okay, maybe this means that I'm going to meet somebody or have some. It's setting me up for some experience. So I'm trying to say yes to more variety of things. Um, what was the other thing I was going to say? But it's like that confirmation process of like when you pay attention to the synchronicities. But it is so complex too. To like, oh, the other thing I was going to say was like sometimes it works. So I was hosting a retreat in Sedona in January, and I was expecting like 10 people, and at the last minute, the number of everyone was like a lot of people were like, oops, I have something come up, I can't make it. So our group was more reduced, but the coherence between the people that were attending was so amplified that it was like we went way farther than we could have with a broader group. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is, the most powerful retreat that I've led. And it was because of it was like the right group of people. So it was like, okay, the universe or all of our spirit teams want us to be doing this deeper dive. So they're going to like remove all the other people from this experience. And so originally that's like, well, that's kind of a bummer because I was expecting one thing, but then you realize, oh, actually this is really, really fantastic. So the expectation around, originally it was maybe disappointing for me, but then it actually worked out really amazing. So I'm trying to, like, things that are originally disappointing, I'm like, actually this might be great, and just sort of not judging one thing or another to that degree.
Yeah, 100%. I had some very difficult experiences around the end of last year, closer to the end of last year, and a month later, I found out, wow, these provided some of the biggest learnings for me. But more so is to say, so in my trainings, like observing the trainings of or myself, my own development and the development of those that I'm working with, it's really come down to belief. Like, if people believe that something is going to work, it's going to work for them. If they don't, they're going to struggle more with it. And one of the biggest, I guess, principles that you can take from this, like if you move it out, if you draw a line to conclude it on a bigger scale, is that this also is going to be how you manifest things in life. So if you are of the belief that something bad happens and it's something bad, then you're not gonna make much out of it. But if something quote unquote bad happens, or is like not preferred, rather, that's I think a better word for it, but then you fully believe that your team or your higher self or whatever it is that you believe in is actually looking out for you and is doing that for a good reason, then you will be manifesting a very, very good reason for that to have happened. And I've noticed this in my own life. Like, there's patterns when previously, when I was less, I guess, I was less in this way of thinking. Life could be really, really difficult, and it would just keep being difficult. There would be a vicious cycle, or a cycle of difficulty. But once I've really bought into this other way of seeing things, of knowing how things can be, just everything that's happening is happening for the greater good, and it's happening for my own benefit and the benefit of all others. And this has been consistent, very, very consistent.
How long have you been doing these trainings, and is this your primary focus right now?
Yeah, so right now this is my primary focus. I haven't been doing them for very long at all. It's been 2 years, 2 years at most. My
Okay.
background's in business. I'm a finance guy, statistics. I got my business degree in Toronto, Canada. I went on to do graduate studies as well later on. I was in finance and consulting and stuff, so totally, totally different sort of past. And then I got into hypnosis because I was really curious about the mind and the power of the mind.
Hmm.
And that brought me into then more of the psychic powers, which is something that I explored when I was quite a bit younger. And I'm like, hey, hold on, let me see. I can do this stuff with hypnosis where you can stick people, you can get somebody's hand stuck to their table, you can have somebody hallucinate something that isn't actually there, a dragon or something. You can change beliefs completely. You can reorganize their reality to be better, more constructive, more beneficial. Maybe you can also help people develop their psychic skills faster, because that's something that I really cared about when I was young. Um, and I put on a training to see what happens, and it worked way, 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 way better than I expected.
Hmm.
And I wasn't planning to do another one. That was just like kind of like, let me see what happens, because I had to run trainings. Part of my thing was I wanted to learn how to coach and develop people and help people grow. And I had to have a training to
Hmm.
have a context in what I was learning, because I was doing a mentorship, an apprenticeship in training. And but it went too well, so here I am.
Huh. I love it. Um, I'm I love, yeah, I interviewed Caroline Corey. You know, she has the Superhuman film. There's David Verdesi. He had the Searching for Superhumans, and he went all over the world finding these amazing practitioners. And it's like a doorway. It's like you see something and it's super cool. I mean, if I could fly, or if I could levitate, or if I could do any of these things, it would be really fun. But how practical are they really, these skills? What do you think is, if one of the larger goals is the expansion of consciousness, how do these all fit in with that?
Um, Two things I'd like to say. First, I'd like to. You talked about Caroline Corey and David, what was his name, Verdesi, in search of
Hmm.
superhumans.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
I think those are great because they make it really interesting, and it really brings to the world what's possible. But what it also does is it puts a lot of distance between somebody that's watching this and the people that are doing these things.
Mm.
There's inherently, it's creating space, or it's creating this inability to reach that sort of level. That's what's happening. There's a frame around that, and that frame is not something that is useful, nor is it something that is true, in my opinion. Because somebody watching this, they see, okay, somebody to do this. Oh, I need to. Like, I remember the Balinese one that was doing electrocuting.
With the
Yeah,
leaves, the lightning through the
yeah.
leaves. Yeah.
So, I need to meditate for, I think it was like 3 hours a day. I need to fast. I don't know how many days. I need to maybe hold a vegan diet. I need to, be in a temple and be isolated for 10, 20, 30 years. This is not at all what we teach this in. This is, I'm moving against that. I'm moving against that idea that you need to be in part of a lineage, or you need to be part of studying with an ascendant master to be able to achieve any of these things. And I'm actually getting a lot of flack in some circles, especially some of the more Eastern circles, where having a master that has the 50-second master of the seventh temple, that is so on and so forth. And I'm saying, no, you don't need that. Of course, that doesn't resonate with a lot of people, understandably. But if we continue thinking that way, and we continue expounding these ideas, then nobody's going to be able to achieve any of these feats. And why are these feats important? Because that's a really good question. So it depends what you want to do with it. But say, for example, you want to heal yourself, or you want to heal your wife or your child. Well, if you can move matter, you can see you physically move matter. You move physical matter, or you teleport an object, or you magnetize metal. How much less of a stretch in your mind, in your belief system, is it that you can heal at a microscopic level? You can change microscopic cells in your body, or in your daughter's body, and you can heal them, completely heal them. Like, how invaluable, how priceless is that ability to be able to heal those that you love, or those that you just meet
Hmm.
on the street. You pass by, you see somebody that's not doing well, you have the intention, and as you pass by, you change something, and heal them. How invaluable is that? So these skills are not. Yes, it's cool, but the difference is this: that I've done Reiki. I've done Reiki training before, and I've done manifesting before. How do you know when you're healing somebody with Reiki, or with any sort of healing modality, or when you're manifesting? If you're spending an hour, how do you know you're actually being effective for a full 60 minutes? Or if you're manifesting, if you're trying to manifest and you're doing a visualization for 30 minutes, how do you know you are actually affected for 30 of those 30 minutes? You don't, because it takes time for the results to come in, right?
Yep.
But if you learn how to move matter and it's in front of you and you get the feedback, the live feedback, you then start to feel the state that you need to be in, or you start to feel what it's like to be doing that. Then all of a sudden you can have full confidence that, hey, when I spend 30 minutes to heal my pet, my dog, then I know that I'm having an effect. I have full effect. And then that
Hmm.
belief is actually reinforces and amplifies the effect itself. So you being able to do some incredible feats helps you be able to do this kind of work. And that's with healing, that's with manifesting, that's with also, for example, the other aspect of intuition, receiving information from outside. That's not no different from being able to, when you need to make a decision. Do I take this job or do I take that job? Should I buy this car from this seller? Should I put an offer on this house? Should I meet this person, go on a second date with this person? We only use data and information that we have through our five senses. But imagine being able to then access information from the universe, from whatever you believe in, Akashic records, whatever it is, the matrix, the field, and then you can use that information to help you make a decision.
Yeah, when I talk about remote viewing, often I like remote viewing because you can train a confidence in your accuracy with known um, targets, right? And then you can, it's like, okay, wow, like most of the time I'm getting 80% of the data or whatever. Then you can move on to targets that you can't verify, like outer space or subatomic or ancient past or any of these things. Um, because otherwise you might, yeah, just write it off. But if you have like proved to yourself slowly that or quickly that yeah, oh my gosh, I am getting good data here, then you can sort of trust your more stretch type of perceptions.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's these abilities start to lead to, like, just the world becomes all accessible, and it starts to become a joy, and it starts to become fun, and you can live with excitement and love and care for everyone else. How amazing is that? That's incredible.
Yeah, I want to ask you. Speaking of remote viewing, because I heard that was one of the things you were doing when you were a kid. Um, I was I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and we have these giant earthen mounds. There's a few left. It's like a pyramid, but it's made of dirt of earth. But there at one point used to be hundreds of these mounds in the city, and they kind of leveled them to build the modern city as it stands. But they were finding Egyptian artifacts. They were finding giant skeletons, like 18-foot tall humans, in these mounds, and those are kind of scrubbed from the record, right? Because they don't really conform with the, okay, there were some Indians here at one point. So um, I was like, well, what if we got a team of remote viewers and just sort of got some insight into where these mounds came from, but particularly giving us some experiments where we could go do a dig and validate something, because it's always nice to, like, okay, but we can like see what we think it might be, but if we could get some archaeological dig sites where and how deep to dig, where we'd find some corroborating evidence, then it could be real and we could like publish a paper about it. That's just one application of remote viewing that would be kind of fun probably for our local area. But what yeah, like what are your thoughts about what would you use remote viewing to try to look into, or what would be exciting for you to investigate more?
It's a good question. Remote viewing can also be used for concepts and ideas, and um, because really what it is, it's you're you're just accessing information that exists out there. So it doesn't have to be necessarily like a place or something. Um,
Hmm.
the thing that I would use remote viewing for is I like to learn to find out how I can train people faster and better because that's what I care about. I I believe these skills like they open up, and Lidu said this, like they open up energetic channels for people and it helps people ascend their consciousness by doing these things. So for me, my I'm hyper curious about what are the hacks that I can use for people to help them pick this stuff up faster. This is what I'm about, and the overarching mission of
Sure.
telepathy as well, which is huge and massively important in my mind. So, like, how can we do this? And technology, can we remote view technology from, I don't know, ETs or other dimensional beings um, to help us with this? Because I think that's an important piece. Like, what are we not doing that we could be doing um, to bring us closer to a state of love with each other?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel for sure some of my friends who have built like free energy devices in their garage, they're just like tapping in, getting that from somewhere, their higher self or their, some starship somewhere. Um, yeah. So yeah, accelerating the process. Have you experimented with technology like brainwave audios, or I'm thinking of the
Hmm.
Monroe Institute and things like
Yeah,
that?
plenty. We've experimented. I've experimented plenty. We have a training actually coming up in Australia in June, I think it is, and we've got the first 3 days. The Monroe Institute. We've got an instructor doing 3 days of like um, of stuff to kind of prep before the training. So I'm curious how that's going to turn out and if how that what kind of an effect that's going to have. But
Hmm.
prior to that, I did do a lot of experimenting with different brain waves. I used things like Muse. I used different binaural beat stuff to see what would happen, and I didn't really get any sort of conclusive like, okay, this is definitely making it easier or better to pick this stuff
Hmm.
up. Um, I think brainwave changes are actually are more of like, I mean they are, it's more of like that happens because of you're doing something else, and what seems to happen is people with these like doing these abilities you can kind of start doing them in any sort of state. So I've tried all sorts of states. I've tried like different kinds of emotions as well, different kinds of,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, states of mind as well, different kinds, and you can do it pretty much in all of them. The one that really doesn't help is if you're critiquing or there's inner dialogue or there's stuff happening, doesn't really help, doesn't really work so
Yeah,
well. Um,
sure. I think I was telling you about the I had just learned about this study um, because I'm reading Dean Radin's latest book, The Science of Magic, and he does like a lot of the literature review. There's a placebo effect for psychic skills that they were testing. It was basically where they played classical music and they said this is engineered to make you better at psychic skills for 15 minutes, but it was just a normal piece of music. And so the people performed better on psychic skills after just listening to this placebo music. And I was like, oh, that's really showing that the belief is beneficial. Um, so then we're all the way back to where we started of like, if I see you stick the card to the wall, now I believe that it's possible and it's going to make it easier for
yeah,
me.
this is exactly it. So on the 7 day training, this is every day. This is what I'm badgering people about, guys. It's your belief. It's about your belief. It's like, what frame are you using? What are you doing? I've had people ask me like on the 5th or 6th day, like, Alex, how should I be doing this? Should I like this? Does this work like this? And I'm like, guys, is it a useful frame for you or not? Like, is this something that you want to use? Like, do you want to do it that way? Because that could be really useful. And like, if you feel it resonates with you, then that means it's more aligned with you, right? So if you resonate with something, then yeah, it'll work for you. It'll work better for you. Great, use it. Use it if it helps you do the thing. But always remember, these are all constructs in our mind. You know, we're making these things up. There doesn't seem to be actually a correlation between what works and what doesn't work, unless except for if you think it works, then it'll work. So, you know, if I tell you, hey, and oftentimes I'll do this, and I'm ruining the secret here, but when I'm introducing like a new thing that I have no idea if it works, I'm just gonna be like, yeah. So, like straight face, yeah. So we're gonna do this now, and it's gonna happen like this, and then we'll move on to something else, and that other else is gonna be a much bigger deal. And I'm like, I purposely create a big distance so that the first one that people are gonna do is gonna seem like really easy to do, you know, even though I have no idea if it
Yeah.
works. Like, I remember on the first telekinesis training, this was a 5 day training, and we only had like 6 or 7 people. It was a small one. It was the first one I ran. And I think it was the 4th day. Like, people were already moving things under glass on the second or third day. Like, they were like progressing so fast. I was running out of ideas of what to do because they were already doing such things that were so far ahead.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
and I was like, I was acting, oh, very good, guys, good stuff. And like, behind me, I was like, oh, because they were surpassing me by so much. I wasn't able to do any of the stuff that they were doing. I had spent 2 months ahead of time, like training 2 3 hours a day, and
Well, wow.
and on the 4th day, I'm like, I brought some cans of Sprite. That I had to drink a bunch of Sprite beforehand to get these cans empty. And I'm like, all right, we're gonna roll these cans now, and a few people were like, they're looking at me, and I could tell because this was in my circle of Nelpers, of people that do NLP, and they have very good sensory acuity, so you can pick up on the smallest little, facial expressions or movements or any sort of incongruence in your body. So I had to like, really like, yeah. So now we're gonna move cans.
Embody it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it passes, like nobody picks up on this is not supposed to actually happen. And I've only seen a few people do this, and it's been after years of training. And I'm like, let's see what happens. And I give everybody the cans, and I put some music on, and within like, I don't know, 5 minutes, somebody's like managing to roll it. And I'm like, oh my god, you're rolling it. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I was trying to hold back, like freaking out in my enthusiasm about this. I'm like, very good, guys. So he's the first one that rolled a can. Very good. Keep it up, guys. And it was an experience.
I love it. Yeah. Gosh, we it's so funny because I don't know if I told you, but we have a kids school where we're exploring a lot of this stuff, plus um, learning the body's energy systems, and just various different. This is like a mystery school for kids, basically. But we did spoon bending for our open house when we were launching, and this is just like a month ago. And then one of the parents sent me the video. It was like right after the call. My son got the idea to stick things to the wall, and so he was sticking, like, the first thing he tried was pencils, and he's sticking pencils to the wall. And it's like, that's amazing. And then I see your video sticking. Maybe he saw it too. Maybe that's where he got the idea. But it's like the leap from where we were to where you can go. Like, I wasn't expecting that, but it's like great for you. I mean, look at that. So, and I guess maybe they're not leaps, but it's just like something that we hadn't thought of, or unexpected speed for them to acquire that skill. By the way, do you have any, like, because we have this school for kids, do you have any thoughts about what might be really useful to teach kids, or how you might approach that?
Yeah, give me a moment here. What's really important, I think, is to keep things fun and interesting. and to keep play and experimentation involved, and not have things designed like a curriculum necessarily, where there's like the whole purpose of this is to be, expand, minds, and expand our mind and their mind, and just explore and do extraordinary things. And when we box things in, or we create constraints, or do how things should be, that really limits, it really stifles that feeling, the emotion that childlikeness that they have. And of course, in our trainings, we obviously have much more of a process that's happening, but that's also because there's decades of deconditioning that we need to do. But with kids, it's like it's all there already. So it's, I think, taking more of an approach of, like, imagine you're working with geniuses. You have 20 geniuses, like the best in their field, and you want to, I don't know, let's say, make money. Like, so what's the best way to do that? It's not by you telling them what to do. It's just by giving them all the resources they could ever imagine or need, and seeing what they come up with it, and just allowing the container to self-organize,
Yeah, yeah. We maybe fortuitously we called it. It's called a Quantum Kids Laboratory, and keeping that sort of experimental, adventurous frame. And one thing that I've noticed is like the bare minimum of instruction. Like, here's what we're going to try. Like, just so you know enough to get started, and then let them take off from there.
Nice. Yeah, that's exactly
And
it.
and then they're reporting back like, oh, like, say one of the things was like, when you're doing different hand mudras, like, what is your experience of this mudra and how might you use it? Rather than saying like, this is traditionally what this mudra is for. It's like, can you tune in to like the channel that's opening when you do that, and what might you use it for? And then say, okay, yep, that's actually, you got what historically it has been used for. Amazing.
Yeah, and even like that's a good example of something that I think is like, it only works because we believe it works, and because we've agreed collectively that something is used for something like that mudra. Okay, this will help you with, let's just say, sticking things to walls, but like, that's just because it's a collective agreement. We've all collectively decided to be delusional and say this is what this is used for, and then the more energy and more attention and awareness that is put on, hey, this works for that, the more it goes into that collective unconscious, and it becomes a thing. And I reckon most people, if they notice something, I reckon it's because they're picking up on that collective, on that unconscious existence, that's a thing, rather than that, hey, this actually does something like this because it actually does that. I personally don't believe that there's anything that does anything
Interesting.
inherently.
Okay. Yeah. I might push back on that, because I would say that the body has like a very specific design and is built in with certain switches and triggers and systems. But yeah, I would for sure believe that someone could tap into the, I don't know if the egregore is the proper
Yeah,
term, but the collective agreement
egregore. I
about
think
something.
egregore is a good one, and I agree. I think the body is designed to do certain things. However, I think we've almost created certain abilities or affinities or within the body, because we've been more and more putting our attention in a certain direction on something. So um,
Hmm.
I think the more physical the thing is, the more it can have like an actual cause and effect sort of relationship with other things. Like a cup is inherently very good at holding water. So yes, definitely what I said does not hold up with like something like a cup. Or if you get a knife is going to be inherently good at cutting away, separating. But I think that's about because they're on a very close to matter being something that is whatever, low vibration, something that is in existence, that has been brought into reality to have a cause and effect sort of capacity. I think things that are higher and higher up on the abstract, on the level of abstraction in terms of whatever it is, energy, whatever that might be, those are ever more flexible and less attached with a certain characteristic or function. And I think those ones are very, very movable. And I think things in between, like energetic bodies or when you're working, because I've worked within different esoteric with different esoteric practices. It seems like you can have the same sort of effect doing something your own way if you've put enough effort or attention or awareness, or you have a few people that have kind of agreed, okay, let's do it like this, and then you can create something that has just as strong of an effect, like an egregore, and then it's more new than an old egregore.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. The variability of like how solid or how energetic something is. I was the other day. Someone was they were saying the middle finger is actually a really great mudra. By the way, you can use it as like an antenna to enhance your download. They were just sitting there meditating, like with the middle fingers.
Maybe it isn't. It's like people that give the middle finger needs that more downloads for themselves. So it's like.
One thing I want to just circle back to, because I think you may have a little bit more to say, but you were just talking about the importance of like telepathy, and Lidu saying like this is actually something that's going to be really beneficial. The more people that can start working on accessing telepathic information. Was there anything else you wanted to say about that?
Yeah. So the way it kind of started was, so initially Dali and I were going to do a training together where I would do the hypnosis stuff and the telekinesis, the psychokinesis stuff, and she would do the blindfold vision stuff and extrasensory perception. And we would work together, and because these things are the frames that I'm introducing for telekinesis are perfect for what she does with blindfold vision. And when you develop one, it kind of helps to develop the other one, especially with telekinesis, because telekinesis is something that you see like immediately. So you get very quick proof that, okay, you know what, reality, immediately you start to have doubts about all of your other beliefs about reality. So then things like blindfold vision and extrasensory perception, which might be there could be a bit more of a probability to it. People might be denying it a bit more because, like, well, maybe I'm just kind of making it up. Maybe it's my imagination. I mean, yes, it is your imagination. That's what you're trying to use. But when you've already proven, like, hey, I can bend reality, you kind of fall into that reality more easily. So initially, the plan was to just do a training, her and I, with these two, and it was Lidu that actually told her that the teachers are asking us to include telepathy in our trainings and to include some telepathic exercises.
So her teachers,
yes,
were
her teachers that she's working with, or the angels, or whatever you want to call them, the different entities that are helping us with stuff.
Yep.
And that's become a really, really big mission, because she's confirmed that when you do telekinesis or blindfold vision, you're opening up energetic channels, and they also help for telepathy as well. And to me, from a very, very young age, because I was lucky enough that my parents bought me all sorts of, they bought books from garage sales that were like on extrasensory perception, on remote viewing, on Reiki, on all of these, weird and wonderful things. And
by your request,
they were just picking that stuff up. They were buying like lots of books at the garage sale.
Nice.
And I was curious about that stuff, so I would read like at 6, 7, 8 years old,
Nice.
And I remember since then I had this idea, and I even told them that like telepathy would change the world. If telepathy was real, I mean, if people were telepathic, the world would be different. Human society would be completely different. It would be good and loving and kind. Like you would not be able to stand in front of people in a stadium and lie to them about what your political motivations are or your motivations for the country are. You will not be
Yep.
able to go on a conference call in front of your executives and lie about your motivations or that you have maybe been embezzling money or committing any sort of fraud. So that takes care of situations like that. But there's a deeper level, even more important level of closeness, connection that telepathy brings. So, for example, Derek, you and I have been talking for about an hour and a half or so.
Hmm.
Um, I don't wish you any ill will. I assume you don't wish me any ill will, right? In
Hmm.
fact, I truly wish you the best. Like I truly wish you that that you will have a very very good, fulfilling, happy life. That you will find what you want to be doing. That you will be successful in those things. That your wife and daughter prosper. That you prosper. That you have just the most amazing, incredible life. I truly wish that from the bottom of my heart. And
Thank you.
absolutely, and thank you for receiving that, actually. And I assume you probably have some level of that as well between, at least neutrality to what I said. You're going to fall somewhere on that as well.
Hmm.
We have not expressed that to each other. I mean, I've just kind of expressed that, but because of the context, I'm saying that. But this conversation could end without me expressing that. It could end without you expressing that. And that would be unfortunate because we have a lot of love for those people around us and that we meet, and we have a lot of care, and we want the best for people. And imagine that instead of it not being expressed, like it has to be expressed verbally now, or maybe like, I might be exuding some love towards you, and you are exuding some love towards me, but it's not like it's not super strong because we're not really attuned to that. Imagine if we are attuned to that, so that feeling that I have is expressed. Not only can I express it and it's in the background, but then you are picking up that feeling from me and you feel it fully. What an incredible, hour and a half that would be when somebody is,
Mm.
so loving with you and cares about you, and then you are also receiving that as well, and you're giving that, and there's this cyclical thing. Like I'm getting emotional just talking about this and imagining this. What a beautiful way to live and to live your life. So then when you walk out on the street and you do your grocery shopping, or get in the car and you pass by your neighbor, or you're driving by and you're exuding this, and then you're like around other people that are exuding this to you in the grocery store, picking up stuff off the aisles. Like how does the world change then?
Mm. By the way, as you were just doing that, there was like rainbows coming off of you,
Really?
like from your shoulders. Yeah. I was like, am I seeing? Because a lot of times I have to second guess myself, but it's like the periphery of my vision. But yeah, it was like these rainbows shooting off of your shoulders, kind of.
I'm that yeah,
Pretty rad.
that's I've never heard of that. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What a beautiful thing to envision, and it's reminding me of like one thing in couples. It's like you've heard of the love
Mm.
languages, and it's like my wife and I, we have different love languages, and like I'm always expressing my love most easily in my love language, which is physical touch, and she wants lots of compliments, right? And so it doesn't always like I'm just giving you all this love, and she's like, actually that's too much touch, more compliments. Uh, and so we're missing that. But if we had that more pure telepathic connection, then like I just want you to get this love that I'm sending your way. Yeah. That would be amazing, and it would, you know, in various relationships, you would feel much more uh, at ease and seen and just like participatory. I think in some
Yeah,
ways, yeah,
if you think back and like for most people, I think, and people listening to this, like if you think back, the probably the relationship or the people that you fight most with are probably also the ones that you love the most and love you the most. So I know that the most fights and arguments and discussions that I've ever had has been with my parents. and and I don't know anybody that loves me more than them and that I love more than them, you know? Yet how does that happen? And I'm sure everybody has experiences like that where the people that you are closest to, there's the most amount of harsh words said or, you know, passive aggressiveness or however people express their whatever it is.
sure.
How sad is that, you know, when it's like the people that you love, you're hurting the most. So, yeah, there's
Hmm.
and here's the other thing. The container that we created in Sedona, we had 45 people, which was a big group.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
I wasn't sure how it would turn
Yeah.
out because it's so many people. But we did 30 before and it went well. And I'm like, okay, let's see if we do more. And it turned out amazingly. We would open each day with this loving kindness and this intention. And this would be happening and would be reverberating throughout the day. And each day it got more profound, more deep.
Hmm.
Got closer and closer to each other, and by the end of it, by the end of the 7 days, everybody was on just a level of compassion and love for each other, and like we're all still in contact with, like I've never seen it like this. It's incredible. Like people have really found family, and that's with 45 people, and we're all elevating, like we're sharing all of these things, and we're all, you know, somebody found this, somebody found that, and we're trying to share and spread the knowledge, and we're all together. Imagine if this container is not then like 45 people in doing this, but it's like in your town, in your local town, the entire community, you know, has all of this love for each
Hmm.
other, and everybody's trying to help each other, and then expand that to, you know, a city, and expand that to a country, you know. It's changes the face of the earth, like changes the face of humanity, the entire species. It will no longer be a species of humans, it will be something else. It'll have to be something else. We'll be operating completely different.
That's gives me the idea for an experiment. Like there's various group events that I participate in and or lead. I wonder if I just like regularly implemented a loving kindness sort of intro just to see what would happen rather than just like for a sports team or I have a hiking group. A lot of times we just show up and we just start. So, but what if if we did like just a few moments of, I know some sports teams do, like a group prayer in the locker room and stuff. So yeah, that's
There's
fun.
there's something that I found to be really really important, and I've seen with over time. Um, Setting intentions seems to be really 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 important. Setting intentions for what you want to come out of whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's, you know, like a sports team, good practice sessions for people to develop and grow, or it could just be the intention for the food that you're eating to nourish you and balance you. And what seems to be the case is being in a state of loving kindness seems to amplify that, but also in almost all magical practices or esoteric practices that I've heard of, they all recommend to have the intention for not just to be a selfish intention for yourself, but to talk about how this is going to benefit all beings. And how by benefiting you, you can then be in a place or in a position to help others around you better, to inspire others, to motivate others, to be there for them, and to see that. And this kind of makes sense because if you believe in guides and spirit helpers or whatever it is, whatever resonates for you, then of course they're going to be helping you to do what you want. But if you're putting that out there for everyone else as well, then those other ones that are involved with and taking care of their own, humans, they're going to get involved to help you as well because there's going to be a spillover effect. So
Hmm.
there's there's kind of like a formula there to make the most out of these kinds of practices.
Yeah, I was actually Aaron Abke came on my show and he was talking about one of the reasons that Jesus was such a master manifester is because he was so perfectly attuned to the greatest good that he was like whatever he was doing was already like what the best possible thing for everybody. So it was like he didn't have to add much to make it happen. He just like tapped in and was like kicked it off basically.
Yeah, I I have a good friend of mine who has a story like that where they're handing out candies after it was a kind of like a school event, a university event, and they were handing out candies, and he was quite involved as a Christian at the time. Um, and not that this, and the reason I mention this is I don't think it's definitely not only one religion or only one faith. I think it's available to everyone, regardless of faith and religion. But he made a prayer because they were running out of candies very quickly and they didn't have much left, and he really made a prayer. And he had all sorts of miracles happen to him in the past, and they ended up never running out of that bag, and they served hundreds and hundreds of people.
Whoa, that's so fun. That reminds me of I was interviewing the Mandela Effect researcher Cynthia Sue Larson, and she was at a diner with her kids, and they paid the bill, but they didn't have any more cash to leave a tip, and they really liked their waitress, and they were like, "We really want to give her a big tip," so they're like, "Let's just see if we can like pull money out of the wallet," and they would like pull $1 out of the wallet and then close the wallet up and then open it and another dollar was in there and they would pull it out and they just like did it until there was a huge pile of money to give this waitress. And it wasn't for them, right? It was just like purely because they really loved to bestow this on the waitress and it like
Wow,
it worked. And
that's cool.
it's
That's
so
very
fun.
very cool. That's very very cool. There was I love these stories because hearing stories like this opens up your mind to what's possible, and it puts you more in that resonance. This is the
Mm.
thing that we're talking at the beginning, where I'm in awe while you're talking, while you're telling me this story, and I'm entering more and more into this state. We had somebody on the last training who, every now and then, he was known as the milk guy, because his story was every now and then when his jug of milk would be running low, and he just whatever he was in the right space. He was too lazy to go outside, so he'd shake the milk and it would start to fill up.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's so fun. Man, there's way more stories. I feel like we may be getting towards a good place to sort of wrap things up. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you about that you really want to share?
I'd like to leave people with something. Um, First off, just because to wrap up those few stories is, it's I think you're only limited by imagination. Like keep that principle in mind. I don't think there's any other limitations except imagination, and you can imagine up anything. The other thing, and really, really, really important one is we mentioned this a little bit earlier in the conversation, but I really want to drive this home. Is these abilities or these phenomena, they're not limited to special kinds of people. It's not a gift. It's innate. You know, it's your birthright. We have these, we're born with these. And anybody listening to this, we're already in the minority of the world, of the population, in the world of people that actually believe this kind of stuff is possible or that might be doing it. I invite everyone to come into the minority of that minority. And what I mean by that is, don't be part of the minority that believes in this stuff but then subscribes to the idea that you need to do I don't know what, you need to again fast to be able to do some of these things, or meditate to be able to do some of these things. Not that I'm opposed to those things. Great, do them. They're useful, they're healthy, I believe they're very good. But we already have unsubscribed from the belief that these things are not possible, that we cannot affect physical reality, that we are limited to the body only, that there's nothing beyond that. We already have unsubscribed to these beliefs. I invite everybody to also unsubscribe to the belief that these things are out of reach or take time or effort to attain. These are all immediately attainable and doable by everyone here listening to this. I invite everyone to take that stance. There's a movement within the movement of psychic skills, or whatever you want to have, whatever you want to call them. And that movement is this: that those old ways of thinking where you need a guru or you need a master or you need anything like that, those days are over. We are all our own guru, our own master. We find the strength, the power, the ability, the belief within ourselves. So I invite everyone to take that on and take that on as their new reality.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the space to share this message.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on, and maybe you could point people to where they can find out more about you and your next trainings. And
If it's meant to be, it'll happen. I'm not worried about
that. All right. Okay, perfect. Love it. Well, yeah, Alex, thanks so much.
Absolutely,
really
and thank you, Derek, very much. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Yeah, likewise. All right, we'll
Cheers.
talk soon.